Now let us move on to our next layer, which is the interface layer or the user facing layer over here. And in this particular layer, the first thing that we want to do over here is to create our dependencies. So we'll be injecting our dependencies over here using the dependency injection over here. So let's just go and create the new file, and let's call this one as the dependencies.py file over here. And let's go and create some of the functions that we require. The first thing that we require is to create the dependency for this particular country repository, and the next one is to create the dependency for our country service. So these two are the classes that we need to create, and that's where we will be using later on the interface in our API. So let's go back to the dependencies over here, and let's create the function that will return us our repository. So let's create the function def, and I'll just get the country, and that will be of the country, the repository. First thing that we require is the repository over here, and that's going to return us the iCountry repository. And let's just go and import that one over here. So sorry for that. Let's just go and import. Okay, it's not going to do that, so let's just go and import from the app. I need to import this particular iCountry repository over here. Let's just go and remove this one for now, and it's not returning something, so we need to return something from here, right? So let's just go and return from here our country repository over here, and let's go and import that one as well, and make sure you import the correct one from here, right? Make sure you import the correct one, and let's go back over here. And this constructor, if you go over here, the constructor over here, we need to provide the session or the database session over here. And for that, how we can get that one is if you go back to our db.py, here's the one that we are getting the database session. So we need to pass this one to this particular function through the dependency injection over here. So I'll just go and call this one as the db_essi session, and this is going to return us the database session, right? And I'll be using the OTATE annotate from the typing, and with this annotate I can pass in the type that is going to return, so SESSION session from the SQLAlchemy ORM over here. It's going to return as the session, and it depends on the DEPEN DS depends on our get. So let's go over here. It depends on the get DB session from here. So let's just go and import that one over here, and I need to call a okay, so I don't need to execute that particular function. Actually, the dependency injection, it's auto, we'll just go and execute that. And I also need to import this particular over here. So how can I import this? Depends is imported from the FastAPI, and then the import the depends. And once we have this particular DB session, right, it's going to return us the session over here. So I can just go and pass in the session as the DB session over here. And let's just go and add some documentation over here. So let's just go and generate the doc string over here, and that's going to get the country repository, and the args, the args args that we are going to pass in is the DB session, and it's going to return us the iCountry repository over here. And once we have our repository that is returning us the country repository, next thing that we need to do is we need to provide or return the country service over here, right? That's going to take the iCountry repository as the constructor parameter over here. So once we have that, let's just go down over here and let's create the def function to get the country service over here, right? So that's going to return us the country service, and it's going to return us the country service. So let's just go and import that one as well over here. So make sure you import the correct one over here. And once we have that, it's going to return us. So if we go down over here, okay, so let's just go and close this one and let's try to reopen it, and it's going to return the country service. So let's just go and return from here the country service, and it's going to take the, if you go to the country service over here, that's going to take the repository or the iCountry repository as the constructor params. So we need to provide it as the dependency injection. So constructor dependency injection, right? So let's go back over here, and to get that one, how we can get is we need to get this particular, we need to call this get country repository, because that is the one that's returning us the country repository with the correct dependency injection over here as the constructor. So for that, what we require is we require the repository, right? So let's say country, and we are going to we require the country repository country repository, and here the type will be of our iCountry. This is the one that's going to be the type, right? So that's the type that is going to return, and I can do in the another way. So this is the one way to provide a dependency injection using the annotate, right? And now I would like you to show the another way that we can actually use, that is to using the depends over here, get country repository over here. And that's, I'll just go and say the ignore the type over here, right? And I guess that should be the one. So let's just go and provide the I need to provide the repository over here. So let's just go and provide that particular repository over here. Okay, so here it's giving us some type error over here, so we need to fix that one. And I guess that's the what we have wrong. We have done something wrong over here. It should be of the actually the type, and then the ignore ignore over here. That should ignore that one. So this is the same way that you can actually use, either way, which one you prefer. Right, so here it's actually the same thing that we are doing, but here we are using the annotate from the typing over here. And in this way, what we can do is we can also do in this way as well. So that's going to return type, and it depends on that particular get country repository function. That's going to inject our country repository over here, and in that way we can use it over here. But let's just go and change it to the annotate, because I guess that's the much more cleaner way to actually make use of our dependency injection over here. And let's just go and provide that. So I can also remove this the type ignore, because this will provide the actual type over here. And in this way I can just go and say that's going to return us the get country service, and the args that we are going to provide is the country repository over here, right? And then the return type will be of the country service over here. So that should be good enough over here. And now with this, we have the proper file that's going to provide us the dependency for our country repository as well as the country service, using the depends, which is doing the actual dependency injection using the FastAPI depends over here. So on the later, once we go and create our API, and once we inject the country service, it's going to automatically go and inject all of the dependencies that is required for the country service, and we don't have to manually go and create all of the country repository and then the country service. We can directly make use of the country service, and then the dependency injection will be automatically done from the FastAPI side, which is what we are using as a depends over here.